Everybody. April 23rd, 2025 on a Wednesday. Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week. We halfway there, y'all. Say what's up as you come in the chat. Say where you watch it from. Welcome to the daily live stream. Oh man, it's Wednesday, guys. We are halfway there. So I'm going to go through the menu as per usual what we will be digesting today. I always say, from a mental health standpoint, make sure you're grounded and regulated before we take this news in, because news can be triggering. And if you are not grounded or regulated, don't watch this right now. Watch it later. So with that being said, guys, welcome to Cozy Corner TV. I am your host, Kieran Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner. What up, y'all? We on the corner. So let me set this up. Let me make sure all the HD is on. That could be on. And then we're gonna go down the menu. Got some Stephen A. Smith in the house today. Victor Hansen, shout out to Vic. All right, so first up on the menu, guys, we got CBS News New York. So feds announced indictment of 27 Tren de Aragua gang members. Okay. 27's a lot. When I saw this, I was like, wow, all 27 in New York, huh? I'm not surprised. You know, it's a major city. I'm not happy it's the state that I was born in. But I mean, again, New York is like a major city, so epicenter for a lot of different things. So we're going to take a look at that. I picked a shorter version mixed in with Tom Holman also talking about some Kilmar Garcia's case. And I did that because the indictment case, I mean, there's a video out there where Mayor Adams is doing a lot of talking. It's like 28 minutes. But I didn't really want to throw that on this one. So I might not jump back on today, guys. But if not, I might include that one part of tomorrow's live stream. We'll see. Because I think these two go well together. And just in the 2-minute one, he kind of covers a lot. And the longer one, it's a lot of fluff in there and just kind of a lot of random people talking before Tom Holman and Mayor Adams come on. So we'll take a look at that from CBS News first. And then we'll go over to Forbes breaking news. Tom Holman says Kilmar Abrego Garcia is home in El Salvador and won't return to the United States. So I've had a couple of people ask me, like, you know, Q, if we really want to know if President Trump is completely disobeying the law or if Kilmar's coming back, what should we pay attention to? And I always say you should pay attention to what the borders are saying. You should pay attention to what this guy, Stephen, what's his name? He's usually on the White House lawn. It might be Stephen Williams. I'm thinking about, you might want to pay attention to what he's saying, what President Trump is saying. I've said numerous times on the live that the El Salvadorian president calling Kilmar a terrorist is not helping him. The Brawl Stars guy, what's up? Shout out to you. Sarita, shout out to you. Would you rather watch a tree grow or a Negro? Probably a tree, if I'm honest with you. I don't know, just better scenery. A knee is just, it's not that appealing to me. It's not. But hey, if a knee turns somebody on, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm more of a nature guy, so I'll probably watch a tree grow. And then we're going to switch gears, guys, and go over to Matt Moore's TV. Shout out to Matt Moore's. We react to him a lot over here on this channel. The Supreme Court just dropped a bombshell. So I'm pretty sure he's referencing the whole birthright citizenship thing that's going on. The Brawls guy, I like your mouse. Thank you. I like this mouse too. I can't do the little weird ones. I have them at my job, and I think they're just so ergonomically they don't work for me. This is just more comfortable. But I'm pretty sure Matt Moores is referring to the birthright citizenship thing that's happening. As you guys know, a few days ago in the Oval Office, President Trump mentioned that the whole birthright citizenship had a lot to do with slavery, which he isn't completely incorrect. So I like him coming at it from that perspective. I said, okay, so he might actually get the Supreme Court to look at this if he's going to approach it from that perspective. And I was right. So the Supreme Court is going to be taking a look at it, but Matt Morris kind of digs into a little bit of the details, so we're going to follow it by what he's saying, because I like the way that he covered that today. And then we're going to go over to KO Gloves. Shout out to them. Stephen A. Smith exposes Mayweather's $402 million meltdown. Seems to be the final straw, guys. So I've been a Floyd Mayweather fan over the years, just a boxing fan in general. But one thing Money Mayweather is known for is his flashiness with his money. So a $402 million meltdown is a lot. That's a lot of money. So I'm just curious. I've been seeing this thing play out for probably about 2 weeks online now. Some of you guys know I'm not big on jumping on news right away. Some news, yeah, if I've been following it and I know what I'm about to say and the source I'm getting it from is pretty accurate. But if it's new news, I tend to wait because a lot of things can come out, in between. And you don't have to be the first one to jump on the news. Some people like to, and I get it, like for algorithm reasons, but I don't really work like that because I don't want to come out with like falsified information or things that aren't true. And even if I did, I would come back on live and tell you guys, okay, my bad. Like I lied, but not on purpose. But either way, I wanted to wait and see how this kind of played out. So it seems like over the last 2 weeks, a lot of people have been reacting to Floyd Mayweather being in some substantial financial trouble. It appears that even when he was overseas, he wasn't able to come back to America because of some financial situations that were outside of boxing. Stephen A. Smith went on record to kind of call him out about this, and I believe I did play some of that. This was probably, today is Wednesday, so this might have been last week, Thursday. I played a snippet by Stephen A. Smith saying something about it to Floyd Mayweather. So we're going to take a look at that today. And then, second before last, shout out to Inner Vision, 613,000 subscribers. It says, this mistake will destroy Canada for decades. We got Victor Davis Hanson from the Daily Signal. Shout out to them covering this. I've been watching Canada pretty closely. Right now, we're in the last week of their election. So I believe their election is April 28th. As far as I've seen so far, the Liberals are still up. You guys need to fix that. I mean, if you want to give the Liberals another term, that's up to you guys. I don't live in Canada, and I always say here in America, like we'll take other people's opinion, but as the people in the country, we're kind of going to vote based on what we see going on in the economy and how things are playing out. Some of us will vote according to race. Some of us will vote according to the party we've been subscribed to forever, which is crazy. But it happens in America. Nonetheless, I think Pierre has done an outstanding job at telling you guys why the Liberals do not deserve a fourth term. I get it. I know there are more candidates than Pierre. I just feel like the liberalism in Canada is at an all-time high, kind of like it was for America. And I've said this before. What's going on in Canada right now, pre their election, is scarily congruent to what was going on in America pre-election. So I'm just interested to see how all of this is going to play out for them. The 28th is close. We're about 5 days out. So we're going to see what Victor has to say there. Then we're going to end the live stream with a clip from Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff. He's a YouTube content creator, a Christian content creator, and I react to his YouTube shorts almost every single night on this channel. It's how I end my live streams, with a Christian clip. And today the title is She Cheated for 3 Years with His Best Friend. What she did to win him, betrayal. So that's what we're going to be looking. Oh man, the Lord is funny. So that's what we're going to be looking at. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, really, Holy Spirit, this is what you want me to react to today. And I'm like, okay, we're going there. So yeah, it's going to be touchy for some people, because for some people, cheating is like, that's the end all be all. Like, it's like, that's the one thing that if someone does it in a relationship to me, they can't come back from. And I don't think that's very scriptural. But we're going to jump into the live stream right now. First clip up on the menu, CBS New York. Feds announce indictment of 27 Tren de Aragua gang members. Let's take a look.
The feds use mob fighting, racketeering laws to nail 27 alleged members of a dangerous Venezuelan street gang known as Tren de Aragua.
They are accused of sex trafficking, plotting murders, and selling drugs in the city. Political reporter Marsha Kramer joins us with more. Marsha.
Well, certainly, Jessica, to be sure, this was a big takedown of a bad group of hombres. It was also used by border czar Tom Homan and Mayor Adams to cement their partnership in ridding the city of migrants who commit crimes. They also use it as an occasion to insist that opening an ICE office on Rikers is the right thing to do.
Today you see one small step, and many more steps to come to make this country safe and help Mayor Adams and the police commissioner in any way we can to rid this city of illegal alien public safety threats, and national security threats.
President Trump's border czar Tom Homan took the lead in announcing a federal racketeering indictment of 27 alleged members and associates of the violent Venezuelan street gang Tren de Aragua on a host of charges that included smuggling young women called multanas from Venezuela into Peru and the United States for use in the sex trade, trafficking controlled substances including a mixed street drug that contains ketamine, helping associates to flee prosecution, intimidating and threatening violence against potential witnesses, and armed robberies. Homan extolled his partnership with Mayor Adams that includes an agreement to open an ICE office on Rikers Island.
This is what collaboration looks like. This is why I've been working with Mayor Adams since November.
And Mayor Adams was quick to defend working with the vets to make the city safe.
My mission is to rid every one of these dangerous gangs from our city. I'm unapologetic about it. The question that we must answer, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of those who are carrying these illegal guns, wreaking havoc, sex trafficking, harming innocent people, regardless of their documentation? Or you're on the side of hard-working New Yorkers and Americans? I'm clear on which side I'm on.
The mayor, accompanied by police
Okay,
commissioner
Mayor
Jessica
Adams.
Tisch and deputy mayor for public safety Kaz Daughtry, made a point of looking at the table of 33 guns that had been confiscated from gang members.
The American dream is not doing armed robberies. The American dream is not discharging guns. The American dream is not shooting at police officers.
And Tom Homan also criticized members of the city council who want a temporary restraining order to stop the city from going through with an executive order to open an ICE office on Rikers Island. He said the office would help the feds nail more violent criminals. Jessica, Nick?
Big takedown. Right.
It's a big takedown.
It is.
Bad hombres.
Bad hombres. Only you can say it.
Bad hombres. Malo hombres. Malo y hombres. Okay, so 27 is a lot. It's a lot. And I could appreciate Mayor Adams only because, he's trying to be as congruent with his president that he can be. And right now, the guy really is, he's getting a lot of backlash. The only reason why I think it's funny to see is because, he's getting backlash from the citizens of his state for trying to do the right thing. And for the most part, it's just simply because they don't like who the president is right now. So they're literally upset with the mayor for complying with the president of the United States, which I think is hilarious. He's getting a lot of flack for this, but 27 is a lot in one state. And I'm not saying that there's not more in another state. There could be more than that. I'm just saying 27 to go on record in one state under Mayor Adams is pretty impressive. And switching gears a little bit, Tom Homan, he kind of brings that up in this speech to the press near the White House when he's talking outside of the White House, about how Mayor Adams has been working, with police, with the government, and that's the way it should be. It's unfortunate that he's experiencing what he's experiencing because he's trying to follow the law. It's just interesting the way people act about it when it's someone who they don't agree with. It seems like if he was following the law and this was Joe Biden, he would be getting praised. But because it's President Trump and so many people disagree with President Trump, he's been called a traitor. He's been called the mayor that should step down. He's been called the crooked mayor. And I'm just like, man, people have really got their perspective skewed when it comes to things like this. So up next, Tom Homan says Kilmer Abrego Garcia is home in El Salvador and won't return to the United States. Let's take a look.
That's a classic example how collaboration between ICE and state and local law enforcement, the success of the collaboration. 27 Tren de Aragua people were indicted. I believe 6 are still standing working for them. But we sent a strong message to Tren de Aragua. We're going to keep doing this to every TDA member, MS-13 members removed from the country. That was the first time we used RICO. The underlying offenses were sex trafficking, gun trafficking, drug trafficking, murder for hire. We seized a lot of weapons and we rescued some victims of sex trafficking. What's specifically important to me about New York is Mayor Adams, who's getting beat up by the left for cooperating with us. Look what transpired. Look at the lives we saved in New York City, right? At the same time, you got the city council filed a lawsuit to shut down our memorandum of understanding, the executive order he signed to get us in Rikers Island. We proved yesterday what collaboration can do for the safety and security in New York. But now the city council wants to lock us out of Rikers Island with TVA and MS-13 hours so we can get custody of them before they hit the streets of New York. It's just ridiculous. And of course, no city council members at the press conference yesterday, they don't want to hear the truth. This is about open borders, it's about sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are for criminals. And I salute Mayor Adams for, writing that executive order to get us into Rikers Island. I think we'll win that case. I hope the judge who's going to hear that case saw the press conference yesterday and see the results of collaboration. Cops should be working with cops. I never asked New York City NYPD to be an immigration officer. Ask them to help us be cops working with cops to remove public safety threats and national security threats and terrorists from the streets of New York and from Rikers Island when they're done with their sentences. That's exactly what we proved yesterday.
Mr. Holman, are you tracking any case? What is your response to the judge accusing the administration of bad faith and willful non-compliance?
Bad faith. We removed.
The reporter asked Tom Holman, what's your response to the judge who accuses the administration of bad faith? Let me see. Let me go back a little bit.
We removed bad faith.
Accusing the administration of bad faith and non-compliance.
Administration of bad faith and willful non-compliance.
Bad faith. We removed an administration gang member, public safety threat, wife beater, designated terrorist from the United States. He's home. He's a citizen of El Salvador, a native of El Salvador, who had due process, despite what you're hearing, been ordered removed by 2 separate immigration judges. The best that could happen for him, if he actually came back to the United States, he would be detained and removed again, because he has an order of deportation. And what people don't talk about, the withholding order they keep saying was a mistake or oversight, was issued years ago under different circumstances. The gang he was afraid would attack him no longer exists. The country of El Salvador is a much safer country because of the actions of President Bukele. I don't think any court can order another nation, a sovereign nation, to take a citizen national of their country in their custody and get back to the U.S. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'll let DOJ argue this in court. But I think we remove the public safety threat, gang member, designated terrorists from the United States who have been ordered deported twice by a federal judge. I think I got plenty of due process. He got more due process than Lakers. I think that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you put it like that, Tom.
Okay.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because he goes to Lake Riley, and it's like, what can you do there? Now, you have some people that are gonna push back and be like, "Man, that's an older topic." Like, unfortunately, that girl's already passed away and gone. But I mean, that's why I said, well, when you put it like that, Tom, I mean, it's kind of hard to digest. You know, you got this young woman brutally raped and murdered, no type of due process, no type of, real justice because of what happened to her. And, he goes, well, he got more due process than Lake Riley. And that was ouch. That was an ouch moment.
Okay.
Will the administration facilitate?
I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the State Department. I think I stand by, we did the right thing for the safety and security of this country. We removed the terrorists. Just like the 2 plane loads that all of a sudden, very suddenly we violated court order. These are 2 plane loads of terrorists that were international waters. Again, I'm not litigating the case. I'm not an attorney. I'll let DOJ handle it. But again, I think we're keeping President Trump's promise to American people who voted him into office on #1 issue, secure the border, and remove public safety threats and national security threats. That's what we keep doing. I find it incredible that there's all this push for more due process, more process for these designated terrorists, when in fact no one asked for due process when they crossed the border. No one asked for vetting when they crossed the border. Where was all the media? Where were a lot of you all folks when 10.5 million people came to the border and you're silent? Where were a lot of these folks when they had 600% increase in sex trafficking when they're children? Where was everybody when we had 250,000 Americans dying from fentanyl that come out open border? Where was all the anger then? Where was all the press then? But now, they enter the country legally, against legal process, And now they demand a legal process.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous how this has come full circle. And I think President Trump's doing the right thing. This country's much safer today. I looked at the numbers today. We're about 68,000 illegal aliens arrested in the interior United States. A hell of a lot more than the Biden administration ever done, ever thought of doing. And a vast majority being criminal alien threats. This country's a lot safer. New York City's a lot safer today because of the operations we did up there. Arresting public safety threats and national security threats. Every time we arrest one of these people, remove them, the country gets that much safer. President Trump secured the border in a matter of 7 weeks. Today, as I'm talking to you, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. Data proves it. He did in 7 weeks what the Biden administration couldn't or wouldn't do in 4 years. This president is keeping his promise to American people. I'm happy. I walk in here every day working for the greatest president of my lifetime because I spent over 40 years doing immigration, enforcement, and border security. We've never been where we're at right now. The most secure border in the history of this nation right now. Lives are being saved every day. Migrant lives under Joe Biden. Over 4,000 illegal aliens died making this journey to the United States. How is that humane? That's an historic record. And again, 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl. How is that humane? They want to say our administration inhumane. We're not giving due process. We're saving lives by the thousands every day. The wall. Everybody's screaming, yelling about the wall going up. Every place we built a border barrier, illegal immigration went down. Illegal drug flow went down. But you know what no one talks about? The wall saves lives. Women and children can't get over that wall. So that means they're going to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the border. So who's going to deal with those health issues in a humanitarian crisis? Walls save lives. The secure border saves lives. President Trump saving thousands of lives every day by securing that border. And we're going to continue, despite what the district court says. Maybe we got to hold off on some of the deportation operations we're doing, but it's not going to stop us from seeking these people out, arresting them, and taking them out the streets of the United States while we wait for the courts to decide, about the Alien Enemies Act and other things. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to arrest these public safety threats every single day, 24/7 across this country. That will not stop.
How many people have used CBP home?
Yeah, he just shakes his head. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not answering any more questions. Man, we know if it's one thing Tom Homan is, it's determined. He was talking like this on the campaign trail. So none of us should be shocked by this. Sometimes I can't help but to laugh when people are like, Tom Homan, he's so cruel and he doesn't care. All he cares about is the numbers. And it's like, no, I mean, I don't think he's cruel. The guy has a job to do. This is the thing. Every time somebody tries to throw something emotional or emotionally driven at Tom Homan, he always comes back with facts and numbers. Like you can tell, he's like, I don't have time for this. Like, women and children are gonna die. This is what happens when you leave the borders open. This is what I've seen over the years. And he's the same way. He's very congruent. So that's something that I can appreciate about him, because it doesn't matter if he's on a podcast or he's being interviewed by the press in front of the White House or if he's on the news. He's the same way, regardless of who throws anything at him that's pretty emotionally driven when it comes to these deportations. And he's pretty upfront. He says, listen, what's going on right now, it might halt us a little bit. We might have to stop it. Well, that's because people keep putting lawsuits out there. So eventually, as they have to go to court and fight this case and that case. I think it was Bill O'Reilly who was the one who put it out there that there was 125 lawsuits against President Trump thus far. And this was easily 3 weeks ago. So I'm sure in 3 weeks there's been more, because people just get mad and they're like, I'm suing my president, which I think it's a bit ridiculous. But in America, we kind of think we can do whatever we want. So if people think that they don't agree with their president, they're like, that's fine, I'll just sue him. Well, have fun with that, because in other countries, if you attempted to sue, your world leader, you would just be killed. So that's where I can say, as someone who lived in other countries, Americans can be quite spoiled and quite entitled to certain things when they do things like that. So switching gears, guys, we're going to go over to Matt Morris TV. Shout out to you, Matt. The Supreme Court just dropped a bombshell. So I'm pretty sure Matt's going to cover some things pertaining to birthright citizenship. So
ladies and gentlemen, we just got some absolutely historic news that honestly could change this country forever. You see, the United States Supreme Court has
I'll read this for you guys because YouTube probably flipped it on the screen. It says, breaking news, Supreme Court to hear arguments in May over Trump's bid to broadly enforce his executive order restricting birthright citizenship.
Officially agreed to start hearing arguments on whether or not the United States should end the unconstitutional and completely abused practice of birthright citizenship. Now, like I said, this is absolutely massive because this is the exact policy that has allowed millions of children born to illegal immigrant parents to instantly become United States citizens just by nature of being born here. Now, let's make something very clear. No other developed nation on the face of this planet gives out citizenship like we do. In Europe and Asia and South America, Africa, if neither of your parents are citizens, you don't get citizenship. It's that simple.
Yeah, my wife was telling me this. My wife is from Greece, and she said that. She said it is not like that in Greece. She's like, if you're born in Greece, she's like, well, that's great, you're born in Greece, but that doesn't automatically make you a citizen.
Meanwhile, back here in the United States, for decades now, we've been handing out citizenship like it's a bingo prize. And so now it's time for this entirely unintentional citizenship racket to finally come to an end. And so thanks to President Trump and the America First agenda, the Supreme Court is finally going to take this issue seriously. Now, folks, yesterday afternoon, Stephen Miller had a great breakdown of this entire situation. But
okay, Stephen Miller. So this is going to be Trump. Yeah, I said Stephen Williams. My fault, guys. I was trying to think of his name. Yeah, that's him. United States. Yeah, he's the Homeland Security Advisor.
Before we take a look at that, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this.
Birthright citizenship is the biggest, costliest scam in financial history. An illegal alien can come here 9 months pregnant or on a tourist visa, 9 months pregnant, have a baby. That baby is then declared an automatic citizen, which then entitles the entire family to come here and live here, and every one of them can get welfare. Yes, they can get unlimited welfare, applying as the custodian of this citizen, so-called child. The biggest financial ripoff of Americans in history, not to mention the fact that it is the #1 magnet for illegal immigration and invasion, and that is used by foreign governments to conduct espionage against the United States. Because now, see, we can keep out a foreign spy who has the visa, who's trying to get permission to board an airplane. But what happens when a foreign government uses this ridiculous birthright scam in order to create automatic citizens to then grow up as assets of a foreign government? So it's a major national security threat. The 14th Amendment, the provisions in question were ratified for the children of freed slaves. You can go read the minutes of the debate. They were talking about the children of freed slaves after the Civil War.
Yeah, no, you're
the
100%
idea
right.
that this was meant to provide illegal alien children with automatic citizenship. Do you really think that in the 19th century, 3/4 of states all got together to pass an amendment to say that people that Congress has forbidden from entering here can have automatic children citizens?
No.
I mean, the idea is so far beyond even the outer limits of imagination. No human being who suggests it should be taken serious.
Meet Shark Cryoglow,
He
the
said
new
no
mid-spa-inspired.
human being that suggests it should be taken seriously.
So folks, just like Stephen Miller said, allowing birthright citizenship to continue the way that it has isn't just a legal issue. Allowing it to continue would spell the end of the nation. Originally, birthright citizenship was meant to apply to the children of recently freed slaves after the Civil War in the 1860s, not to the children of people who violated our immigration laws and entered our country illegally. And here's the truth. For decades now, birthright citizenship has been a glowing beacon, a magnet at our southern border, drawing illegal immigrants into our country saying, come on in, just give birth here and you're set for life. And then, who pays the bill for all of that? You do. American taxpayers are footing the bill for illegal immigrants and their anchor babies to collect welfare, healthcare, housing, and education. But okay, you know what? What do you say we talk about the legal side of things here? Despite what the left-wing media tells you, the U.S. Supreme Court has never once ruled that the children of illegal immigrants are automatically entitled to U.S. citizenship. That is the loophole, and now President Trump is getting ready to close it.
Yeah.
The argument that President Trump and his legal team are going to make in front of the U.S. Supreme Court is really pretty simple. If you are in this country illegally, you are not subject to United States jurisdiction in any meaningful sense. You are here in violation of our laws. And so what that means is that the children of illegal immigrants don't get to immediately become U.S. citizens just by nature of being born on U.S. soil.
Right. Now, it's important that we pay attention to this because for the people who are normally with me and on my channel, they know that I'm big on explaining things like this so people can understand it. So Matt Moores is coming at it from a perspective of saying this is what the Trump administration means. If you already entered the country initially in an illegal manner, and then within that process of you entering illegally, you were pregnant, and then you give birth to your child. Your child is not going to be entitled to birthright citizenship because your initial entry into the company was illegal. You broke the law. So this loophole that Matt Morris is talking about, it very much is a loophole. And people have asked me, do you really think that, President Trump, hold on, chat, let me turn this light on. Do you really think that this is a loophole for President Trump to go through? I said, absolutely it is. Absolutely. Because nothing that he's saying right now is not fact. It's true. From the 1860s, it doesn't matter if I'm talking to an African-American person right now that's super sensitive. They can get all worked up if they want. Facts are facts, right? So this is what birthright citizenship did pertain to, right? Freed slaves after the Civil War, they were automatic citizens. This was not for people who came from Mexico or people who came from El Salvador or people who came from Venezuela. This was for the slaves in America who were freed, and after the Civil War, their children that they had after that, the generations and generations, they would be considered citizens, right? These people, we have to remember, those slaves, though freed, they were already here, right? They didn't come over a wall illegally. They were brought here. So this is the reason why when Stephen Miller says, do you really think when this law was thought up that these people came together and said anybody who comes here and has children here, they get automatic citizenship? Of course not. Now, no, we don't want to see, small children deported, especially to something that would be considered more of a third world country if you're comparing it to the United States. But at that point, this is where a lot of the comments that seem harsh may not be so harsh, but it's about how you're looking at it, right? Because you do have some people that are just straight cutthroat and they're like, bro, our kids ain't your problem. Like, you came in the country illegally. Like, if they have to go back to something that's a third world country, that's your fault because you didn't follow the rules, right? So you have that's one side. And you have a lot of people that are like, yeah, man, it's hard to see. But it's very true. You should have done the right thing, if not for yourself, at least for your children. So you do have that argument. Then you have the other argument of people who want to fight the birthright citizenship and say, no, like the kids were born here, so leave the kids here and then deport the parents. And then now you have a side that can come out, probably the extremist left, and say, look at what the Trump administration is doing. They're destroying families and they're deporting children. So, it really is you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't type of thing, right? So President Trump is going to look at it like this. If I go through this loophole, and this does not give the right of children that were born here to be American citizens, then guess what? We don't have to separate families. Here's a deportation order for you, a deportation order for you, and a deportation order for you. He's just going to send everybody together as one family. So a lot of people don't like this, but this is why I say it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because what do you want him to do? If he sends the parents home, right, we run the risk of what? The children can stay here with a different family member. Okay, well, we don't know what can come of that, right? Because they end up staying with the aunt or uncle, whatever, someone that feels like they should molest them, or they can because their parents aren't around. So a lot of things can be birthed from that because they're not with their parents taking care of them, right? And then the other side of it is that, oh, well, it's very traumatic to take somebody who's been born in a place like America and now they're about 10, 12 years old and they're going to get deported to a place like, Venezuela or somewhere even worse than that in Colombia. Of course, that's horrible. But that's why you have the side that argues if you weren't going to do the right thing for yourself, you should have at least done it for your children. So this loophole that Matt is talking about, I very much think that there's some working space here. I'm not saying that the Supreme Court is going to totally go to President Trump's side, but if you guys are asking me, like, does he even have a leg to stand on when it comes to this? He does. He does.
And so if the U.S. Supreme Court agrees with that interpretation, and all signs point to that being possible, then birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants will come to an end.
Oh yeah.
Permanently.
Finito.
But you know what? What do you say we talk about the Supreme Court here for a moment? Technically, yes, there is a conservative majority on the Supreme Court on paper, but as we've all seen, Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett have been a little bit unpredictable, to say the least. That said, it is undeniably true that President Trump has been winning almost all of his Supreme Court battles as of late, which is a very good sign. And honestly, between you and me, it feels like the tide is kind of turning. The American people are sick of getting ripped off. They're done being told that it's compassionate to let illegal immigrants rewrite our laws and bankrupt our country. And as public pressure continues to mount, even the Supreme Court can't ignore the will of the American people. And as I'm sure you can all guess, right now, the absolute vast majority of Americans are in favor of overturning birthright citizenship. The truth is, if our founding fathers saw that we've just been giving out citizenship to every single illegal invader that gives birth on U.S. soil, they'd be absolutely mortified. This is not how the United States was meant to operate. Every single time citizenship is given to the child of an illegal immigrant invader, the value of what it means to be an American citizen is...
This part right here, I want to go back to real quick when he says this.
The truth is, if our founding fathers saw that we've just been giving out citizenship to every single illegal invader that gives birth on U.S. soil, they'd be absolutely mortified. This is not how the United States was meant to operate.
And there's something to that when Matt says that. It is. It's funny. I was having this conversation with my mentor at work today, just talking. One person I was talking about was my great-grandmother, how she was born in 1908. And by the time 1928 came around, she would have been 20 years old. And just the world worked so differently. You know, we were just talking about the difference in how the foods work and how it affects our bodies differently. I mean, my great-grandmother cooked and ate lard, and she had 10 children. So it's so weird the way the world works today, but it's not at the same time. This is why you have like the RFK haters who are like, I can't stand RFK, I want my McDonald's, and RFK is like, listen, I'm trying to give you a couple more years to live. Like, I'm trying to help you out, because everything he's talking about, like, people don't get, you know, the food dyes and some of the ingredients and all of this stuff makes sense to me, because when I was a lot younger and I would be doing my research, as I did often, and then I would go back when I had great research or information that I figured was very helpful, and I would go to my friends and my family and my mom, and I'm like, Mom, do you know that in America we use 37 ingredients and that in other countries they're illegal? And she's like, what are you talking about? So I was saying this stuff 10 years ago. So everything RFK is saying, it makes total sense to me. I know it's not going to make people excited about it. I mean, even people I know who have some governmental benefits, they've already seen a change in the things that they can buy. Like, they used to be able to buy a lot more junk food, a lot more things that were, I don't know, let's say unnecessary, so not a necessity. And it's like, a lot of that stuff has literally already changed. You're not going to hear a lot of people talking about it just yet, because they're new changes, and some people are just like, oh, I'm just going to adjust and just kind of go with it. But yeah, I've already had people even talk to me about changes like that. So when Matt is saying that, you know, the people of this of the founding fathers, they would look at this like, this is not the way we intended for America to work. Well, I would go as far as to say, even people that were born in the time of my great grandmother would look at us right now in America and probably be like, what are you guys trying to do? Blow the country up? I mean, if I think about some of the before, like, let's go to the silent generation, the great generation, the greatest. These are people that fought in World War I and II and rebuilt the country. They would literally look at us like, you guys have absolutely lost your mind. I'm pretty sure they did not intend for birthright citizenship to look like any person that comes from anywhere in the world here. Especially a woman that's pregnant and has the baby here. It's not automatic citizenship. I'm pretty sure that was not what they intended from the very beginning.
Every single time citizenship is given to the child of an illegal immigrant invader, the value of what it means to be an American citizen is slightly diluted. Not to mention that the way birthright citizenship currently works actually rewards people for invading our country. Like we said earlier, millions of people have snuck into this country hoping to have a baby just so they can stay here. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is why it is so massive that the Supreme Court is finally willing to take a look at the case. Because, folks, here's the reality. If we don't protect and gatekeep American citizenship, then we might as well not even have a country anymore. What's the point? And so this is why we voted for President Trump, to put an end to this type of nonsense and to finally put America first. Now, folks, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually, so please go down below and drop a comment.
Shout out to you, Matt. Thank you for your commentary. Yeah, I think that, this is a bombshell because there were a lot of people that didn't think that he would be able to get this, that he would not be able to get the Supreme Court to take a look at this. I remember when this first started to be mentioned and some people was like, there's no way that the Supreme Court is going to look at that. There's no way that that's going to be taken into consideration. But I knew that they weren't taking into consideration the loophole that President Trump would go for. And that's the thing. If you are one of those overly emotionally driven people to where it's like, oh my God, my head's going to explode because I'm so mad that Trump won, and you're not paying attention to anything that he's doing, you're going to be lost in the sauce, right? That's something we used to say in the military a lot. You're going to be lost because the moves that he's making, you're not going to understand it, and you're going to keep losing it, and your lid's going to be blown all of the time, and it's literally going to be for no reason. I've sat in conversation with people that have literally asked me like, Kieran, what do you think about President Trump wanting to take over Greenland? And I'm like, President Trump doesn't want to take over Greenland. and they think that I don't know what I'm talking about, and they do. So I just haven't been keeping up, and I'm like, no, you're so mistakenly misunderstood by what I'm saying. I know President Trump is not trying to take over Greenland. That's not the objective. It never was. Just like when it comes to the Panama Canal, well, he made a joke, he was going to name it this. It's like, okay, President Trump, he does a lot of that stuff. If you watched him, his first term, he did it. Very big on hyperbole. If you don't know what it is, you can just look it up. But it's something he does very often, right? He plays on words a lot. He likes to get the people going, is what I like to call it. And a lot of people who don't understand him and are just like, Democrat, 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 I hate any Republican, especially Trump, then you're not going to understand some of the moves he's making or why he's doing what he's doing. And that's why a lot of the time newer people who are on my channel, when they jump in the chat, one of the first things they ask me is, do you like Trump or nah? And it's like, I just kind of laugh. I say, well, it's subjective. I personally am never going to bash my commander-in-chief. Whoever God puts as the president, that's who I like, because that's who the president is. I can't do anything to change it. And bad-mouthing them and talking bad about the commander-in-chief in public, it doesn't do anything for you. Not to mention, I probably have this discipline from serving in the military and being in other countries, but I'm just saying, like, in other countries, if you do that, you'll get got. So that's just, that's layman, right? That's gangster terms for you'll be murdered if you do stuff like that. So it's like, in America, we just have no discipline in certain areas. So even if I didn't care that much for certain things that President Joe Biden did, there's literally not a video of me sitting here saying, I can't stand this man and he should die. And people just, they go over the top with these things. We got to remember, we're dealing with politicians who want to be elected, who are trying to appeal to the people. So there's certain things that they say, right? There's certain rhetoric that they put out there. All right, guys, so switching gears, we're going to jump over to KO Gloves, Knockout Gloves. Shout out to you. Stephen A. Smith exposes Mayweather's $402 million meltdown. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be the final straw. Is money made broke? Is money made broke? I mean, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing that he is. Let's take a look.
He clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. I know you like to make money. You're never gonna stop making money. Very, very few people on the planet know how to make money like you know how to make money.
In a jaw-dropping revelation, ESPN's outspoken commentator Stephen A. Smith has reportedly delivered the final blow to the financial empire of Floyd "Money" Mayweather. Known for his extravagant lifestyle, relentless self-promotion, and undefeated boxing record, Mayweather has long been seen as the embodiment of wealth and flamboyance in the sports world. However, according to Smith, the glittering image was merely a facade, one that is now collapsing under the weight of bankruptcy, IRS, investigations, and a growing number of lawsuits.
Okay, just want to comment.
The phrase "he's done" quickly began trending across social media platforms after Smith's explosive claims during a fiery segment on First Take, sparking a storm of debate, speculation, and concern over Mayweather's once seemingly untouchable
Here's what I do know, which is where my disappointment comes from. When you are as great as Floyd "Money" Mayweather, everybody doesn't deserve to be in your space. I know you like to make money. You're never gonna stop making money. Very, very few people on the planet know how to make money like you know how to make money. But some of this stuff has got to stop. You wanna get Conor McGregor in the ring for an exhibition match, all right, that's fine. You know, Conor sold that, it was great marketing. He's not a boxer, but hey, he was a knockout artist in the UFC, I get it. John Gotti III, I don't know anything about him. I'm not trying to disrespect him. And yes, I'm being smart. I'm not trying to disrespect the grandson of a mobster. Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is this. When you're great, when you're elite, not just anybody deserves to be in your pristine space. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about on the street or anything like that. Boxing is your thing.
To understand the significance of this financial collapse, one must first grasp the magnitude of Mayweather's rise. Born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Floyd Mayweather Jr. turned professional in 1996 and quickly made a name for himself as a technical genius inside the ring. His defensive mastery, lightning-fast reflexes, and strategic brilliance allowed him to retire undefeated with a 50-0 record. Nicknamed Money, and for good reason, Mayweather revolutionized the business side of boxing. In 2006, he bought himself out of his contract with Top Rank for $750,000, a decision that turned out to be career-defining. He then launched his own promotional company, Mayweather Promotions, taking full control over his fight earnings and pay-per-view revenues. Over the years, Mayweather headlined some of the most lucrative bouts in boxing history. His 2015 clash with Manny Pacquiao generated over $600 million, and 2 years later, his crossover fight with UFC star Conor McGregor brought in another $300 million. At one point, Forbes even named him the highest-paid athlete in the world. But as Stephen A. Smith boldly stated, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you spend like you'll never run out.
Glamour, the flossing, the pomp and circumstances surrounding everything that culminated in Saturday night's Mayweather versus McGregor fight, there were a few sightings that were relatively low-key in comparison, but more significant than many may realize. At the weigh-in, there was a two-time NBA champion, Draymond Green, and star guard Paul George. On fight night, of course, there was LeBron James, James Harden, Isaiah Thomas, and a few others. And none of them were there just to pay homage to Mayweather, the fighter. It's the businessman in Mayweather they actually love even more. As the sun clearly set on the boxing career of Mayweather, many can reflect on a lot of things about the man. He wasn't a Mike Tyson-like knockout artist, or even Tommy the Hitman Hearns. To many, he wasn't even Sugar Ray Leonard. He certainly can't be confused with Muhammad Ali or any other fighter who's ever been socially conscious. No doubt he was guilty of domestic violence as our very own The Undefeated accurately pointed out. He definitely had his share of boring fights that didn't give the people what they actually wanted to see. But that ain't the legacy these athletes are paying attention to.
Mayweather's lifestyle wasn't just about luxury. It was about excess. Excess on a level rarely seen, even among the world's wealthiest athletes. His spending habits weren't just private indulgences. They became part of his brand. Every purchase, every Instagram flex, was a reminder that he was Money Mayweather. He treated private jets like taxis. He didn't just own a supercar. He owned fleets of Bugattis and Rolls Royces. His life was a non-stop display of unfiltered opulence. One of the most iconic symbols, an $18 million diamond-encrusted watch. Not a timepiece, but a conversation. Peace. Nights out in Las Vegas strip clubs reportedly cost him $25,000 or more per visit. Not as a splurge, but as routine. Mayweather owned multiple mansions across Beverly Hills, Las Vegas, and Miami. Lavishly decorated, often vacant, yet always maintained at immense cost. He was infamous for traveling with duffel bags stuffed with stacks of cash, flaunting them on social media. Whether it was laying out bundles of $100 bills or posting videos of himself counting millions, the message was clear. His wealth was untouchable. But behind the glamour, red flags were waving. Financial advisors and analysts warned that even this level of wealth has limits. Such a high-spending lifestyle is only sustainable if income flows match or exceed outflow, one expert said. And that becomes nearly impossible once the fight purses stop. When the checks stop coming in, the liabilities remain. A former advisor noted, a haunting line that now feels like a grim prophecy.
Paul, name another boxer besides myself that's more famous than Logan Paul.
Tyson Fury?
What? I want you to look up Tyson Fury, how many followers, and look up how many followers Logan Paul has.
Logan Paul, 56 million. Tyson Fury, 4 million.
So 50 compared to 4 something. I can fight a fighter right now, guarantee myself 35 million. Or me and Logan Paul can go out and entertain and have fun and make 100 million or more. So if you were me, you gotta look at 35 million for 12 rounds and 100 for 6 rounds. Big difference.
During a fiery episode of First Take, Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back. I've seen the documents. I've spoken to the people. I'm telling y'all, Floyd Mayweather is in serious trouble. Staring straight into the camera with trademark intensity, Smith let loose. This ain't just rumors anymore. The IRS wants him. Creditors are chasing him. He's liquidating assets left and right. And what's worse, he ain't got the fight money anymore to bail himself out. He's done. Smith revealed that Mayweather is allegedly facing a multi-million-dollar lien from the IRS, has taken out loans against several of his properties, and is years behind on tax payments. The situation is compounded by failed business ventures and mounting lawsuits from angry investors. Perhaps the most alarming revelation, Mayweather is reportedly quietly offloading assets. Rare luxury cars, high-end watches, even pieces from his famous jewelry collection. All in what appears to be a desperate bid to settle his spiraling debts. Smith pointed to a telling shift in Mayweather's public behavior. You don't go from bragging about spending $1.4 million in a single day to suddenly going radio silent about your money, unless something's wrong. The once flamboyant boxer, known for posting videos of himself counting stacks of cash and lounging in diamond-studded opulence, has grown uncharacteristically quiet, and that silence is deafening. Mayweather's troubles with the IRS aren't new. Back in 2017, he made headlines for filing a petition to delay a tax payment from 2015 until after the McGregor fight, claiming insufficient liquidity, despite having reportedly earned hundreds of millions. At the time, many brushed it off as a strategic move. Now, insiders say that was just the tip of the iceberg.
There's no such thing as thing. I'm working for ESPN. We're broadcasting the Mayweather-McGregor fight live. And to this day, they will tell you that's a record. That's the biggest fight ever. That thing was sold out. That place was, people were dressed up as empty seats. And I mean thousands of people. No. I bought my mother's ticket that day. That day, my mother decides that she wants to go to the fight. So I'm in there and I'm telling the world that this place is sold out because that's what's on the screen. And it's not even close. This isn't like, it's pretty much fun. There's thousands of empty seats. That was the first time that in my own life I ever said, wow, fake news is real. Wow. And then Mayweather, remember, they wanted a rematch. They were begging. They were doing more media trying to get a rematch than they did leading into the first match. And the guys that wrote the checks.
But why didn't it sell out? I mean, it's such two big draws. They promoted it so well.
All anybody's talking about.
Yeah, there's still a number.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how big the draw is, there's still a number. If this guy got 100 million, this guy got 100 million, then you got to advertise it, promote it. You got to
It's the guarantee to kill everything. If they were just getting percentages, then obviously everybody.
You're saying the seats were empty. I can understand it not making the money, but the seats being empty seems
peculiar.
Yeah, and there's nothing in the world where you have a pay-per-view hit that didn't have a live audience hit. Like if your live audience is your first focus group, isn't sold out, you didn't do pay-per-view numbers.
Sure.
But boxing will still claim that to this day. They still to this day claim that that's number one. If you want to be the biggest pay-per-view in boxing history, all you have to do is claim it.
Before Floyd Mayweather became the larger-than-life figure known as Money Mayweather, he was already grappling with serious financial problems. Despite his undefeated record and multi-million-dollar fight purses, reports began to surface that Mayweather was facing potential jail time over unpaid taxes. In a desperate attempt to avoid prison, he reportedly borrowed $2 million just to make a dent in his mounting tax debt. This wasn't the story of a savvy businessman or a financial mastermind, as the public was often led to believe. Instead, it painted the picture of a man teetering on the edge of financial collapse, struggling to sustain a lavish lifestyle while neglecting the most basic tenets of financial responsibility. Rather than investing, diversifying, or planning for life after boxing, Mayweather poured his fortune into luxury cars, high-end jewelry, and multiple multi-million-dollar mansions. His desire to flaunt wealth became central to his identity, creating an illusion of financial invincibility. But behind the scenes, serious mismanagement was quietly spiraling out of control. The $2 million loan, intended to pay off the IRS and keep him out of jail, only deepened his financial instability. It was a clear sign that Mayweather's reckless spending and lack of long-term planning were catching up to him. This marked the beginning of a troubling pattern, a cycle of high earnings quickly consumed by even higher expenses, with little attention paid to sustainability. And today, that pattern appears to have reached a breaking point.
Eric B. was at, from Eric B. and Rakim, we were at the Mondrian. Floyd Mayweather was there. He had some tax issues. He was about to go to jail, but that's before Money Mayweather, that's Pretty Boy Floyd.
Got you.
He was speaking to E. He needed a couple of $1 million to stay out of jail. I called my man Neil, who I was rocking with heavy. He owned Skunty, the hair accessory company. Everybody thought it was crazy. They said, yo, loan me $2 million. I want to sign Floyd. He flew out, loaned me the $2 million, and from there on, we were in the boxing business.
At one point, Floyd Mayweather reportedly owed a staggering $22.2 million to the IRS, a debt that raised serious questions about his financial management and exposed a stark contradiction between his public persona and private reality. For a man who loudly claimed to be the wealthiest athlete alive, such a massive tax bill was hard to ignore. While Mayweather flaunted a life of extreme luxury, private jets, fleets of exotic cars, multi-million-dollar shopping sprees, this looming IRS debt suggested something troubling. That much of his so-called wealth was either mismanaged, exaggerated, or tied up in non-liquid assets. The revelation hit at the core of the Money Mayweather brand. His identity was built around the idea of unmatched financial dominance, but the inability to pay taxes on time painted a different picture, not of a financial mastermind, but of a man dangerously out of sync with the realities of wealth management, rather than reinforcing the image of a shrewd businessman. The $22.2 million debt hinted at a facade, a meticulously curated illusion of endless riches, crumbling under the weight of real-world obligations. It served as a wake-up call. Even the highest-paid athletes in the world aren't immune to the consequences of poor financial planning. And in Mayweather's case, it became clear that a flashy lifestyle doesn't necessarily equal financial stability.
Recently didn't have any money, so Floyd is the highest-earning athlete in his career, making over $1.1 billion. And after making a killing, he ended up retiring in 2017. However, he dug himself into a hole after making super lavish purchases like this LA mansion. It was so bad that he actually owed $22.2 million to the IRS, which made him have to come out of retirement to pay that back. Like and follow for more.
Even rapper 50 Cent, who was once a close friend and business associate of Floyd Mayweather, didn't hesitate to speak out about the boxer's financial downfall in several interviews. 50 Cent painted a grim picture of Mayweather's lavish spending habits, alleging that Floyd had squandered huge sums of money on jewelry, private jets, strip clubs, and, most damaging of all, gambling. According to 50 Cent, the problem wasn't just the amount of money being spent, but the reckless way it was being handled. He explained how Mayweather would drop millions without a second thought, as if the money would never run out. What made 50 Cent's remarks particularly impactful was his past as part of Floyd's inner circle. His perspective wasn't that of an outsider, but someone who had seen Mayweather's extravagant lifestyle firsthand. When 50 publicly stated that Floyd had blown through his wealth and was now broke, it sent shockwaves throughout both the entertainment and sports industries. This revelation painted a stark contrast to the image Mayweather had long projected, a man impervious to financial struggles. Coming from a longtime friend turned outspoken critic, 50 Cent's words added weight to the mounting rumors that Mayweather's financial empire was crumbling behind the scenes. Almighty.
Gone completely broke. And not just broke, but millions and millions of dollars in debt. And I know this sounds crazy to some of you out there, but trust me, I have legitimate proof. Watch this.
He asked me to help him, so actually I could stop them from using TMT as their logo right now. Because
you wouldn't do that because y'all cool again.
Yeah, I don't have it. I'm just not chasing it. But to be honest with you, I incorporated TMT in Delaware while he was incarcerated. Because he didn't sign the paper doesn't mean the corporation isn't valid. So I could actually technically trademarks the term of it because his entire corporation is built on it. So I could tell you, you can't have TMT socks. You can't have that TMT shirt you got on. He don't understand that because it's just not. I just said it, and he won't be able to figure out that I could do that.
Damn, you and this guy, man. I thought y'all was good again.
We are good. I just don't understand why he having the conversation. How am I coming up with the conversation? I don't even care about what they're doing.
So there's still some static.
No, it only happens when it's fuck time.
Got it.
It's time to build some type of energy and some sort of press. It's time to make a fuck, and then that happens.
So through the BX Fight Club, you met someone,
Isaac. Right, because they had to legalize it on paper to turn it into like a dark show, like when they don't have television involved with a boxing event. Even Floyd, like when you make yourself like we got issues over here, he's still the best fighter out there. Until somebody beat him, that's who he is.
Do you think he should step back in the ring?
I think he got to right now because the money gone.
So the money's really gone?
Yeah, that's what you think. Is get the money, spend the money.
Oscar De La Hoya, a former rival and fellow boxing icon, has openly criticized Floyd Mayweather for continuing to participate in exhibition matches. In a video shared on Instagram, De La Hoya urged Mayweather to stop embarrassing himself. Addressing him directly, he said, "Floyd, you're 50 years old. You're a legend in the sport, but you need to stop humiliating yourself with these exhibitions. I understand that life can be tough and costly, but come on, man. Prioritize your legacy." This statement came in response to Mayweather's recent exhibition bout against John Gotti III, which ended in controversy and was met with cheers from the audience. De La Hoya's remarks echo a wider concern that Mayweather's ongoing post-retirement appearances may damage the impeccable legacy he spent decades crafting inside the ring. By continuing with these exhibition fights, Mayweather risks diminishing his past achievements and reshaping how the public views his career. De La Hoya's message acts as a cautionary reminder about the value of preserving one's legacy rather than chasing fleeting attention or financial rewards. Omini.
Floyd Mayweather fought another exhibition against Gotti last Saturday. A real the crowd booing in the arena at the end. But in the middle of the second round, Floyd literally had the referee swapped out. He didn't like that the referee told him to stop hitting behind the head. Floyd is used to having the refs do whatever he wants, and he wasn't getting his way this time. It was so embarrassing. Floyd, you're 50 years old. You're a legend in the sport. I've stood up for you in countless interviews, including Shannon Sharp's podcast last week. But you have to stop embarrassing yourself with these exhibitions. I know life is hard. I know life is expensive. But come on, dude, put your legacy first. Nobody wants to remember you like this. And it gets worse. Your jeweler filed a lawsuit against you in Miami. And many are saying you're going to have to sell off your assets. I hate seeing this happen, bro.
In early 2025, Floyd Mayweather's attempt to highlight his philanthropic image by donating to homeless shelters in Los Angeles was met with widespread skepticism. Although the gesture initially received praise, confusion soon followed when Mayweather posted on Instagram, claiming he was still in Dubai at the same time the donation was reportedly made. This inconsistency led many to doubt the sincerity of his charitable act, raising suspicions that it might have been a calculated effort to restore his public image amid growing financial scrutiny. The controversy deepened when Gervonta Davis, a former protege of Mayweather, made a shocking revelation. Davis alleged that Mayweather was not on an international tour as he had claimed, but was actually being detained in Dubai due to unpaid debts, primarily linked to luxury jewelry and other expensive items. These claims gained further traction when veteran boxing agent Rick Glaser confirmed that Mayweather was indeed being held by the Dubai court system over significant debts unrelated to his boxing career. Glaser emphasized that Dubai takes financial obligations very seriously, suggesting that Mayweather was struggling to resolve the matter without success.
Comes amid, rumors of Floyd Mayweather being stuck in Dubai because he owes people money. And, these are coming from trustworthy sources, Gervonta Davis, Floyd Mayweather, people who know about Floyd Mayweather's inner life. But back to TMZ. So they reported Floyd Mayweather was courtside for last night's pivotal Clippers versus Mavericks game. But before money got to the arena, he was handing it out, blessing 3 homeless men with $30K. Now, there are no pictures, there is no video of this happening, but there is an official TMZ article, and TMZ usually gets it right. TMZ also said, we're told Mayweather began talking to the guys and decided he wanted to help, so he busted out his backpack and blessed each guy with 10 racks. I don't want to show my face, but Floyd just gave us 30,000, Reynolds, one of the men, said after receiving the gift.
Adding weight to Davis's assertions, veteran boxing agent Rick Glaser claimed that Mayweather was indeed being held by Dubai's court system due to substantial debts unrelated to boxing. Glaser emphasized that financial liabilities are taken extremely seriously in Dubai, indicating that Mayweather was making desperate attempts to resolve the matter, though without success. In what appeared to be a move to counter these allegations, Mayweather made a high-profile appearance at an NBA game in Los Angeles, where he reportedly donated $30,000 to 3 homeless individuals. However, this act of generosity was also met with suspicion, as it coincided with the timeline of his alleged detainment, prompting questions about the genuineness of his philanthropic efforts and whether they were orchestrated to deflect attention from his financial troubles. Further complicating the situation, Mayweather has made bold statements regarding his wealth, claiming ownership of 62 buildings valued at $42 million. These declarations have come under intense scrutiny, with critics arguing that they may be attempts to portray financial stability amid growing signs of monetary distress. The public fallout with Davis, combined with these contentious claims, has cast a shadow over Mayweather's legacy, raising concerns about the sustainability of his extravagant lifestyle and the transparency of his financial affairs.
Turns out that the rumors were true, and Floyd Mayweather has been trapped in Dubai for the last 50 days. Gervonta Davis was the first to claim it. Now multiple insider sources have confirmed that he is in fact trapped in Dubai for a debt that has nothing to do with boxing. After doing a little digging, it seems that someone in his camp, while he was shopping for jewelry in Dubai, stole one of the pieces, got away with it, and then blocked all communication with Mayweather. Since then, Floyd has already paid for the jewelry, but they refuse to let him go until they get their piece back. And allegedly, this guy right here is the thief that started this whole mess.
Stephen A. Smith's report highlights a recent filing revealing that Mayweather still owes over $52 million in back taxes, covering the period from 2015 to 2022. According to the report, the IRS has begun freezing some of his financial accounts and has initiated investigations into his assets. Financial analyst Chris Wan underscored the intense scrutiny the IRS places on individuals burdened with significant tax debt. He explained that when someone owes such a substantial amount, the IRS becomes an ever-present force, meticulously auditing every financial move and making it extremely difficult for the individual to manage their finances until the debt is fully addressed. This level of oversight can become overwhelming as the IRS closely examines all sources of income and expenditures.
There may be another reason Floyd Mayweather has agreed to fight Conor McGregor. ESPN reported that Mayweather, get this, still has not paid his taxes for 2015. We don't know how much money Mayweather owes, but he's asking the IRS for a break until the fight, the end of August. Mayweather made about $220 million from his fight with Manny Pacquiao. That was back in 2015. He's expected to make about that much for the McGregor fight. Maybe he should have stayed retired and paid his taxes. He's expected to make the fight, the end of August. Mayweather made about $220 million from his fight with Manny Pacquiao. That was back in 2015. He's expected to make about that much for the McGregor fight. Maybe he should have stayed retired and paid his taxes.
Yeah. Maybe so. Okay, so that was the Manny Pacquiao fight. He made $220 million. Yeah, because the Conor McGregor fight, I think Floyd said that brought in, or the gentleman here, that's it. They said that brought in 600 million, and then there was another fight that he had after that where it was 300 million. Wow, so I wanted all of that to play because I got a chance to watch some of that and on other channels, but I wanted you guys to see that in like its full scope. It's kind of crazy, you know. Stephen A. Smith said it, you know, that there's only a matter of time with that type of money, especially when you're spending it all the time. One thing that Floyd Mayweather is known for is how flashy he is with his money. You know, they talked about how he bought out his contract for $750,000, and after that, he basically was in charge of everything. He got his own royalties, he did his own promotions. So I mean, you know, just not doing the right thing with his money, not having financial literacy. And I can say that because regardless of how old he is, a lack of financial literacy is very evident when a person is just flippant with their money, with how they're spending it. It's either a lack of financial literacy or they don't care, which would also be linked to a lack of financial literacy. Because if you had that, you would care, right? Like money, it's not going to solve every single issue in the world, right? And it's not going to talk to trauma for you. It's not going to heal you. It's not going to not make you feel lonely at night. You know, but there are some sorts of security blankets that it can provide for a person. You know, so being smart with it, I think it's a wise thing to do. I think it's a biblical thing to do. You know, the Lord calls us to be good stewards with our money and not to be flippant with it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep following it, and we're gonna see how things work out for Floyd. If he files for bankruptcy or if anything like that comes out. I mean, and even if he files for bankruptcy, that doesn't necessarily mean he has nothing, but it does mean that he's tight and he can't let anything go. So let's just see if anything like that happens. So we'll keep following it. So switching gears, guys, second to last clip of the live stream, Intervision, shout out to them. This mistake will destroy Canada for decades. Victor Davis Hanson from the Daily Wire, shout out to him. I say often on my channel, Canada is my second most watched country to the United States. So I do my best with keeping up with Canadian news. On here, Victor Hanson talks a little bit about the state of Canada, their politics, who would be a better decision. So also, so does the host from here from Intervision. So he's kind of letting Victor play a little bit, then he's talking. And they bring up Greenland here, they bring up the Panama Canal. A lot of good information in here, so I wanted to go ahead and make this a part of the live stream. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys. Let's watch.
What's wrong with Canada? Mr. Trudeau, we all thought that he was an aberration, that he was a man-child, or, you know, he voted in because of his looks, because he showed no intellectual ability. He was kind of very vindictive. We saw that with the trucker strike. But everybody thought, you know, if you look at terms of per capita income and GDP, unemployment, inflation, military expenditures, and NATO promises, relations with us, you got the impression that Canada was stalled and that the conservative elements that had once been with this great Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, who was gifted, a free market advocate, and really had Canada going in the right direction after a decade, I suppose, that they wouldn't go back to this failed. But who are we to speak? We had, under the first 3 years of Trump, everything was going well, and then we got rid of that. We got somebody who was Obama on steroids as far as policy. That is, whoever was, you know, signing with the auto pen, the Biden initiatives. So I think that, and Donald Trump does not like Polyev. He doesn't like him, and I don't know why he doesn't. I think his attitude is he's a conservative, so he should be kind and favorable to me, but he doesn't understand Canadian policy. He understands Canadian policy, but he doesn't appreciate the situation he's in. The conservatives is that people are angry at the United States because the United States has been saying to Canada, you're spending 1.37 on your defense expenditures. You are one of only 8 nations that refuses to honor your 2014 promises to spend 2% of GDP. And this is especially
one of 8 nations, so that's him also talking about the G7.
actually shameful for you because in World War II, you had the third largest navy in the world for a while. You had your own beach at Normandy. You were the Dieppe, you suffered, you were courageous, and now to see this, and our open border has always been secure, and it was not secured by Trudeau on your part. And so, and you're running anywhere, depending on how you figure it, a $63 to $100 billion surplus. You've got asymmetrical tariffs. And so when Trump emphasized those, all of what I just said, but in the Trump art of the deal, it's loser, 51 state, then it made it impossible for a conservative to object to what the liberals were saying about Trump, because then they would say that he was a Trump puppet. So then he was critical or more critical of Trump, and that meant that Trump was critical of him, and so he lost. It was a lose-lose situation for the conservatives. If they objected to what Trudeau has done, and Carney, is that his name, Carney?
Mark Carney.
Yeah, Carney. If they objected to that, then they were on the side of the United States. I mean, if they were supported Trump and they objected to everything they were on the United States. If they joined the liberals to denounce Trump, is pretty much what they did, then there was no difference between them. They were not able to articulate a particular view. They were just lumped in. Well, if you feel like the liberal people do, and Carney doesn't like Trump, and then you agree with him, then why change governments? So it was a very hard thing to do, and yet Trump couldn't come out and endorse the conservatives because then that would be the kiss of death. And it was very hard, if you look at the art of the deal, no one, and we talked about this, I wrote about it, nobody believed that he was going to invade Panama. But on the other hand, nobody believed that Obama or Biden or anybody had any ability to force the Chinese back out of Panama. And that what Panama was doing was they were being intimidated by the Chinese. They brought in, like a guest they brought in and wouldn't leave. And they have...
So Victor Hansen says, think of like a guest that they brought in, but the guest wouldn't leave. As far as like China coming into Panama.
Port facilities at the entry and the exit that were used for espionage and mercantile, the whole thing. So Donald Trump said he might have to reject that. We knew Panamanians got nationalistic. Long story short, there's a 50-50 chance that this BlackRock deal will go through, and there will be an American company for the first time in years that will be controlling the entry and exit, and the Panamanians will be relying on our defense, and China will be... Nobody would have been able to do that, but Trump did it by this rhetoric. Same thing with Greenland. We want Greenland. Nobody ever thought he was going to absorb Greenland, but after it was all said and done, Denmark put in an extra $1 billion at the disposal of its colony, its North American colony, and we do have a base there, and the Greenland people got more autonomy, and it worked. And the same thing with, I don't know yet with Canada, but in the process of all this, it gets chaotic. But I don't think anybody in Canada ever believed that they were going to be the 51st state. What Trump was saying is, you people that disappointed us, you running surplus with your friends, you didn't patrol your border with your friends, you didn't arm as you were supposed to with your friends, you would just be better off as the 51st. And
one of those pounds I have here.
You would be just better off as the 51st state.
Little rant. Nobody wants Canada to be a 51st state. That would be like getting California and Oregon and Massachusetts on steroids. If you look at Canada, well, let's make Canada the first. Oh, well, he's an imperialist. We Canadians hate him. And then what's the aftermath? Oh, Canada has a $50 billion surplus. We didn't know that. Canada doesn't let American dairy products in. Canada dumps timber in the United States, but we don't export timber from our northern states into Canada. Canada didn't do anything about drugs going across. Canada kind of waved people across that were illegal aliens, ha ha ha. And now Mr. Trudeau is done for. After Trump started this, he completely was paralyzed. People said that little wet noodle cannot stand up to Donald Trump. Get rid of him. We got to get polar bear in there soon.
And I think Victor Hansen is spot on with that. I'm gonna stop that right there because you guys can go over to Intervision and watch the rest of it and give him his due. Views, Intervision, 613,000 subscribers. Shout out to you. But the main thing I wanted him to point out was, Trump's plan for Panama and for Greenland. And he said, no one ever believed that Trump was going to absorb Panama. No one ever believed that he was going to absorb Greenland. These are not things that I personally believe. I knew that this wasn't President Trump's goal, but again, I say it all the time, often here on the live streams. If you're not paying attention to him and you're just like, I'm Democrat, I'm Democrat, I'm Democrat, and I don't care about what Republican is, and I especially hate Trump, then from that place, you're going to be emotionally driven to not pay any attention to what your president's doing, and his moves are not going to make any sense to you. So I knew that President Trump wasn't trying to take over the Panama Canal. Like I said, he likes to get the people going. But what China was doing with having ships at the entry and the exits and the espionage, and they were doing this mercantilism and all of this illegal stuff. It was like Canada and it was like Panama invited them in, but then they wouldn't leave. So that's why Victor Davis Hansen says think of it like that. And then when it comes to Greenland, I brought this up in a couple of live streams where I said the United States at one point in time had 18 military bases in Greenland, and now we have one. President Donald Trump's goal ultimately is to get a United States military presence in the Arctic, because across from that is Russia. So it's important that President Trump covers that area. So again, it's just about like doing your research and paying attention to what's going on. There's a lot of moves that President Trump is making, and as Victor Davis Hansen said, a lot of people couldn't do this. Prior administrations weren't thinking of doing this, and President Trump comes in and he gets it done in a matter of weeks to a few months. And it's mind-boggling to some. So all they can think is that an imperialist, or he's looking at Greenland and he's like, he wants to take it over, like he's acting like a dictator or a ruler. And it's like, no, those are not the things that he's doing. But a lot of people, because they're so emotionally driven, post-election, and not like, okay, this is what happened, whether I like it or not, but I need to pay attention. They don't understand a lot of the things that their own president's doing. All right, guys. So with that being said, switching gears, last clip of the live stream, Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff. Go check out his channel when you get a chance. Let's see how many subscribers Cliff is at. Last time I checked, it was 630. Okay, 685,000. Shout out to you, Cliff, and climbing. So when you guys get a chance, go check out his channel, Cliff, last name Buell. And today's live stream clip is she cheated for 3 years with his best friend. I'm assuming this is her husband's best friend or her boyfriend's best friend. And Cliff says what he did was amazing. So let's take a look.
This is unbelievable.
I've been cheating on him for 3 years with his best friend. We had 2 kids, 3 and 6 years old, and he could have walked away, should have walked away, could have. And when all this came out, and I hid it for 3 years in the church, and he looked at me, and listen, a good therapist knows your feelings are valid, and you can feel all of those things. He was mad, he was hurt, he was confused, he was disoriented. All those things were still true. None of that was underscored or not a part of his experience, but what was also a part of his experience, because he had been submitting and surrendering to the Lord so faithfully for so long, was he literally looked at me, and all I expected him to do was exactly what every man had done in my life, my dad, all these other men, was to leave. And instead he looked at me and he said, Casey, I don't know how to not love you. That is when Jesus became my Lord. That is when I got grace for the first time in my life. I realized that is what Jesus had been saying to me all along. You don't understand, girl. You can run from me, you can hide from me, you can be mad at me, and the reality is I don't know how to not love you.
This is unbelievable.
I've been cheating on him for 3 years with his best friend. We had 2 kids, 3 and 6 years old, and he could have walked away, should have walked away.
We have 2 kids, 3 and 6. I don't know if they're his best friend's kids or his kids, but I love the fact that she says because he had what wasn't part of his experience, she says he was hurt. A good therapist will tell you that your feelings are valid. So he was hurt, and he did feel betrayed and all of those things. But he looks at his wife and he says, I don't know how to not love you, and she says, for the first time in my life, like, I got grace. That's when Jesus became my Lord. She says what was also a part of his experience is that because he had been lovingly submitting to the Lord for so long, that was his response. You see, I was talking about my mentor. I was talking to my mentor about this at work, about for a lot of people, especially not just in the younger generation, it's in the older too, but especially in the younger generation, when things happen to us, it kind of feels like it's the end of the world. Like we can't get over it. You see a lot of men and a lot of women like, I could probably deal with a lot of things, but if someone cheats on me, like that's the deal breaker. Like I have to walk away. And it's funny because I thought about a passage in scripture. I think this is Matthew 18, but let me look at it really quick. Is it there? Is it there? Okay, Matthew 19. All right, give me a minute. Let me see this, guys. Where do I want to stop at? All right, I'll stop right here where it talks about commits adultery. All right, so we're in Matthew chapter 19. NIV, New International Version, titles divorce. So this is what it says. I'm going to read verse 9, and I'm going to stop at verse 9. It says, when Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee and went into the region of Judea, to the other side of the Jordan. Large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. Some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason? Now this is Jesus replying. Haven't you read, he replied, that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no one separate. Why then, they asked, did Moses give that a man gives? Why then they asked, did Moses command that a man gives his wife a certificate of divorce and send her away? Jesus replied, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another woman commits adultery. Okay, so this woman who we watched on Cliff's clip, right? Clearly she's committed adultery, right? She's admitting to it with his best friend. Jesus says, with the exception of adultery, sexual immorality, there is no divorce. So the man had every right, like technically speaking, if he wanted to, he could say, okay, well, because of adultery, divorce, sexual immorality, I can walk away from this. What's always stuck out to me about this passage is that when Jesus is responding to the Pharisees, he says this, Jesus replied, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning. So what I saw there when I first started to learn about this, and I had to process this with a couple of my mentors, if Jesus says it wasn't this way from the beginning, that shows me that there is some grace in there, even if we can't see it. Even if we look at adultery like it's the end all be all, or it's the ultimate thing. It wasn't that way from the beginning. So that, to me, that can mean a couple of things. To a couple of people, it can mean different things. One thing it meant to me was, from the beginning, God didn't want divorce, right? Moses permitted it because your hearts were hard, right? So Moses got permission from God to be able to do this thing because of your hearts, your attitude, your behaviors, right? Your disposition towards your wives. But from the very beginning, it wasn't supposed to be like this. So do people have to get divorced because someone commits adultery? They don't have to. A lot of the times it can end in that. But I think that it takes, it definitely takes a lot of acknowledgement. So not like forgiveness shouldn't be number one. Forgiveness is definitely in the top, I would say 2, 3. But I think acknowledgement first, because she goes on the record to say, he was hurt and he did feel pain and he did feel betrayed, but you know, he also looks at her and says, I don't know how to not love you. And I think that that's something that the Lord will honor him making that decision, and their marriage will be even better than it was before. Now, for some people who've never walked through this, they're probably listening to me and they're thinking like, I mean, if I'm just honest, hell no, Q. Like, if somebody does this to me, like, I'm not sticking around. I don't care what scripture says. Well, you know, if someone commits adultery and you don't want to stick around, you don't have to. I think that there's grace in that, and the Lord will forgive both people if a divorce does take place. You don't have to stay in a situation where you're being abused or mistreated. I think that God can recognize that. We act like we're smarter than God and we can recognize a bad situation before he can, and that's just not the case. But I do think that if something like that happens and there is a heart that's willing, that the Lord will honor that heart, and he'll work and he'll restore. You know, he's a God of restoration. He'll restore that marriage. So I hope that this clip helped you guys. If you know anybody that's dealing with it, has dealt with it in the past, you know, you can always fast forward to the end of the live stream and get the clip it, send it to somebody. Sometimes we think to ourselves, oh, this might not resonate, or what if somebody gets mad that I send this? But if God's put somebody on your heart and says, hey, you know, this will help your friend, or this will help a family member, just do it, because we don't know how the Lord is going to use that, right? God is faithful. He's way more trustworthy than us. So let's just try to be obedient and do what he says. All right, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to go dip out of here and chill with my cute wife. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. We will be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be on at 4 p.m., 1600. And that's it. I will see you guys tomorrow on our regularly scheduled daily live stream. So take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. And be peaceful. Peace.